Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and I have got an expensive and stressful couple of days coming up because I've got three, no one saw that today, MOTs that have now expired, and so I've got three potentially dead cars. Things could get a bit spendy. Things could get a bit worrying because I've got to get these things sorted out this week really, because they're just in the way. I can't use them. So let's have a quick run through what we're going to be doing. First of all, we've got the Y-Ridge Mini. This is one of the pre-production cars from 2001. It has the light that will never go out, the ABS light that I cannot extinguish. I think we should, rather than fix it, make it a feature. Let's just embrace it and go with it, because the car is absolutely fine in every other way, but the ABS light is on. So we'll take a look at that first of all. Secondly, the 200 VI. I parked it up in, I think, November after the NEC. It's not been back out. Back then, I did an emergency welding patch on the sill back in November, in the rain, in the dark, with a broken gas regulator, so it's not the prettiest thing. I need to get that sorted out somehow to make the thing presentable, because I would not dare, it'd be embarrassing to me and insulting to the MOT man to go and take that car around there with that sill looking like that. And thirdly, the Punto, the oldest Punto in Britain. It's 30 years old this year, and I need to get that thing driving because the Alfa 145 is on the road at the moment and the Punto is on the road at the moment. The two of them are both having 30th anniversaries of the model this year. Neither of them have been together for weeks, months at all in 2024. So I don't think, and let's just say touch wood here, that there is anything actually wrong with the Punto, because it came to me with a recent MOT which it passed, and I've not driven it very far and it's been kept indoors, so it shouldn't have deteriorated. So in theory the Punto should be okay. So that's going to be the easiest one. I don't know. Anyway, let's crack on because, well, I don't know. I want all these cars back on the road. So first of all, we'll start with the Mini, because that one is very much in the way. It's here, it's now out of MOT, it's now on sawn, and I can't move it off the drive, and it's taking up a space for a car that could be in the driving rotor, and it's in the dead rotor right now, so let's make it not dead. Right, okay, now this is where things get a bit squiffy and all goes wrong, well, for me anyway. I spent about 2 days working on the Mini and the Rover 200 to make them all, tip-top, ready to get ready for the MOT. However, when I came to edit the video, I realised that I had inadvertently formatted the card. I put the wrong one in, formatted it before starting filming something else, and all my videos are gone. Everything. 2 days of tons of stuff. And I know people are going to suggest in the comments using file recovery software. Yes, I used several file recovery software programs. The best I could get was this. And if I ran it through a video reconstruction program, it got worse. It went to grey with no sound. So the black with crackles is actually better. So that's gone. So what I'm going to have to do at this point, and hopefully you'll bear with me, is I will give you the best synopsis I possibly can, with maybe mime and puppets, to talk you through what I had to do to get these cars to the point where we are now in the world from where they were 2 days ago. Well, 4 days ago, I think it is now. Okay, so here we are over in the barn with the 200 VI and of course the MX-5, which is the first time it's been over to the barn and been stored in here for any time at all. But needs must when you're juggling cars. As you can probably see, I've had quite a bit of a tidy up in the last few weeks. I'm still working on the Mini, it's now behind there in the corner. Things have moved around, video coming on that soon. But anyway, the 200 VI, which, as I've said many times, is one of my favourite cars because it's just such a great combination of being incredibly comfortable and really fun to drive. Even in sort of stock form, it's brilliant. However, okay, there were a couple of little issues that needed doing. First of all, I did a whole montage of washing this thing because it'd been sat next to the blasting of the Mini, and so it was absolutely caked in dust. So I had to go and snow foam it and really carefully wash it to get all that dust off. It looks really nice. Thanks, Diamond Bright. I've lost that footage, so never mind. Secondly, this window. It was being held shut with gaffer tape ever since the NEC back in November. You remember that show when I got stuck in the NEC for an extra day because the thermostat housing failed? Exactly the same thing that happened to me at the British Motor Museum at Rustival with the Alfa. Weirdly, I don't know how that can happen to two cars in such a similar location after, bizarre. Anyway, so prior to NEC though, I had taken this door apart because the window had fallen into the door because the glass had become detached from the regulator. what I'd done, because I couldn't get hold of a clip in the moment, and I'll quickly show you what those clips look like. They look like this. The little clampy bit on top, that fork, that holds the glass, the little hole in the bottom, that bolts onto the regulator. It's pretty simple, you would think. So I couldn't get hold of one in the emergency sort of day before the NEC, so I made my own one by making 2 bits of metal that fitted into that shape. Anyway, at the NEC, that came apart again, and then it came off the front runner as well, because there's one at the front and one at the back. And so it was just held shut by pushing the regulator up underneath the glass and then taping it from on top, and that held it shut since last year, basically. Anyway, I got onto discount MG Rover supplies, GGMRS, really handy people to know if you've got any kind of MG Rover group car of the last years of MG. They had 2 of them left in stock, so I snapped them up, thinking it would be a really easy fix. All you need to do is to get inside the door, unbolt the remains of the old clips, line up the regulator underneath the glass, clip the plastic clip onto the bottom of the glass, and bolt it onto the regulator. Apart from being really fiddly and annoying inside the door, it's a really easy job, you would think. Except it wasn't, because the glass has got little kind of luggy things sticking out the bottom, moulded into the pane of glass. You can't see it through the door, obviously. And that meets up to where the bolt holes are in the top of the regulator. And they didn't seem to meet up anymore. And secondly, when I put the forward bolt in to hold the forward clip in, it was colliding with the one of the wheels that moves along the length of it as the thing goes up and down. So I asked around a bit, did some checking on part numbers and things, and spoke to Rover people. There's not 2 part numbers. It's not like I've got a 5-door part in a 3-door car or anything like that. It's just that these regulators are renowned for breaking. They bend and they go out of alignment, and that, I think, is what's happened with this, and that's why it broke in the first place. And it was close enough previously that I was able to kind of just about sort it out, but now it's not. Now it's completely badgered, so I need to go and get a new window regulator. I wasted the best part of half a day messing around on what should have been a 15-minute job. And as you can see now, I'm just driving around with the door card in the back seat and just half of the door pull on there so I can open and close the door. It is very annoying. Window regulators are quite expensive. Even aftermarket decent ones from Autodoc are 75 quid, which is, I'm tight. I'm too tight. I'm trying to find a second-hand one that's not in any way bent or broken. That's not an MOT fail. Washing it isn't an MOT fail either, but I want the car to look nice. I always feel if you turn up to an MOT in a disgustingly dirty car, it sets the MOT tester's mind to thinking, this is potentially a car that isn't well looked after, I'm going to look for things that are wrong with it. If you turn up in a shiny car, he's going to look at it and go, yeah, someone loves this car, it's probably not much wrong with it. And he's not maybe going to look too much. It's psychological. But anyway, so clean, working window, that's my idea. One of those 2 worked. Secondly, or thirdly, if you want to put it that way, down here, this sill, again, before the NEC, the day before the NEC, I put my finger through that sill. So I had to go and do some mad frantic welding. It was dark, it was wet, it was raining, it was stormy. The regulator had broken on my welding gas bottle. So I was just welding, first of all, with all the gas in the world and then with no gas at all. So it was a horrible, splodgy, tack it on, and it just about held onto the car kind of a weld. You would have seen me spending a little while under the car doing a proper, nice, good weld on this. This is actually a really tidy weld. You can't see now because having done it and seam welded the entire circumference of that panel into place, I thought I was going to have to cut it out and put a new one on, but in the end I decided to just live with what I had and nicely seam weld it after grinding or back to good metal. It looks really good. I used the Bulldog BDX people. They do a rust neutralizing primer, which is like a good red oxide base coat, so I painted it in that, which if you look at the video right now, that's why it looks a bit red through the thing. That's not rust, it's red oxide. And then sprayed it with some, I think it's black hammerite, it's just what I had around. I will stone chip all of this so it looks neat and tidy and matches what, now it's all sort of neatly dried off, because before it wasn't dry yet. But that looks really nice. It's really good and solid. My next thing to do, ran out of time basically because I was literally doing this ahead of the MOT, is to pop this back wheel off. There is a screw access hole in the front of the wheel arch, and I can put the nozzle of a rust neutralizer through there to make sure that entire cavity is rust neutralized, and then load it with rust neutralizing wax as well. The built Hamber Dynex stuff is really good for that. So that corner is now done. That is the only thing I was seriously considering to be an issue with this car. But in a few seconds, I have just synopsisized about a day of faffing with this car. Well, good news for the Rover 200 VI. Another R3 hits the road for another year with a clean ticket. Well, a couple of small advisories, but you know, that's kind of a given. He put an advisory down for the welding that I'd done on this sill. He always mentions, you know, the seal around the area of the rear suspension mounting, which kind of covers himself. He's also noted that there is a little bit of bubbling starting to begin on the other side, which I think I knew about, but because I'd really like to get this car actually fully painted, I'm not overly concerned because it's going to wind up in a body shop before too long. Weirdly though, it wasn't a fail for the fact that the high level brake light wasn't working. If it was partially working, it would be a fail, but not working at all isn't a fail. So I'll sort that out in the next couple of days. May just be blown bulbs, maybe a broken wire into the tailgate, I don't know. And the only other thing, which I'm seeing is more of an opportunity than a problem, is that the brake pads are worn all round. And since I want to go and stick EBC green stuff on this car and maybe some vented discs, I think that's maybe something we'll call an opportunity rather than a negative. So, fantastic work from the 200 VI. Great to be able to drive this thing again, because I missed this thing over winter, because this car is so much fun. It's the car that my son is least favourite for him, because he just thinks it looks like a boring dumpy little hatchback. He doesn't get hot hatches at all because he's 12 and they're not exciting enough looking for him. But this is such a great thing to drive. It's got great handling, it's fast enough to just about get you into trouble. It's really comfortable. It's just a brilliant all-rounder. It's got an airbag even, so it's borderline safe. And interestingly, anyone who disputes or doesn't believe that the R50 Mini was developed under Rover just needs to drive a hot R3 like this or an MG ZR, because the similarities are really quite incredible. The Mini feels a lot heavier and certainly better screwed together, let's be honest, apart from the wiring, which is shocking, pun intended, on the Mini. However, the way that this thing pitches into a corner, the way it grips, the way the chassis feels and the steering feels, remarkably similar. You can really sort of feel the DNA between the 200 and the new Mini from 2001. Right, now, so anyway, this is one success story, 1 out of 3 down. Next up is the Punto, which hasn't been on the road for months. I'm going to do the same thing I did with this thing, which is quickly jet wash all the dust off, put some V-power in it, and take it for a bit of an Italian tune-up. Third gear at 60 for a little while, just to get the catalyst nice and hot. And I'm hoping, because basically it's not deteriorated in the 12 months that I've had it, and it just passed an MOT when I've got it, so hopefully, unless any bulbs have gone or something, or the wipers have deteriorated, we shouldn't have any issues. So, touching wood, we've got a wooden dashboard here to tap, I think we're all good. Oh, a street car! Wow! That's super cool. If anyone's wondering what to stick on my Christmas list for this year, a street car would be right up there. Cracking little things. Oh, it's a slightly squeaky moment there. It's been followed by a police car for the last few minutes. When I was going up to collect this thing from the MOT, I did a quick MOT check on the DVLA site, and it wasn't showing up as passed an MOT yet. So even though I got the certificate, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get pulled over here, I'm going to get pulled over. Luckily, didn't get pulled over. Quite relieved. I've done nothing wrong, but you know, that guilty feeling when there's a police car behind you. Okay, so fingers now very firmly crossed on the way back to the MOT station for car number 2. The oldest Fiat Punto in Britain, 30 years old this year, this car. So I really do want to get this car back on the road again so I can use it across the summertime and basically celebrate its birthday year. We've even got the Spirito di Punto range of goodies available in the merch store, the mugs, travel mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, you name it, which is a really good design. This is a really fun little car. Interestingly, it's nowhere near as good to drive as the Rover 200, which is, well, it feels like a proper luxury hot hatch. This feels like a very well appointed city car, basically, because that's kind of what it is, really. So we've got the electric windows, we've got the sunroof, got a decent stereo, got quite comfortable seats and everything, but it just feels a little bit more tinny, a little bit more rattly, and a bit more lightweight and flimsy than the Rover does, which not a sentence you'll hear that often. Now, in terms of MOT prep for this car, well, I haven't really done a great deal because the car sailed through its last MOT with its previous owner. I've just put some V-Power in it, the super unleaded with the cleaning additives, and I'm going to give it a bit of a rag on the way there. Get the catalytic converter nice and hot. You know, I'm actually debating whether it's even got a cat in or not. I genuinely don't know, because it's that kind of cusp time when a lot of cars were getting them, not every car did. It's the old fire type engine, so I don't know if it will have a cat on it or not. Don't know, actually. That's a really good question. So emissions are going to be an interesting thing. Well, good news number 2. The Punto aced its MOT. I say aced. It passed with only a few advisories, which I'm calling acing, frankly. So I'm currently driving back to the barn so I can go and talk to you about the Rover 200 and explain all the work I did to that. So yes, I literally am spending a day. I should be working on the cars, going back to talk about the work I've previously done on the cars, but I'll quickly give you a synopsis of this one's past, which is actually not too bad considering. He noted on the advisories repairs that are covered in under seal and a little bit of light corrosion around the rear arches area, which we knew about, and the car is sort of provisionally booked into the body shop for when the 400 Tourer comes back. This will follow it in there and we'll get all of that sorted out, so I'm not overly concerned about that. He said the rear shocks didn't look too good. I think he actually said dented or damaged casing, which is something I've never heard of before, but it would explain this occasional knocks I'm hearing. That's not a big deal. I imagine on this car they're about 15 quid each and not difficult to change, so that's not a bad thing to have discovered on an MOT. So I'm calling this a big win for the little Punto. Thank you, little Punto, you did well. I forgot to ask if it's got a catalytic converter or not. So as I record this, the Mini is now actually over with the garage having its test done. Now, I don't know if I'm the only person who ever goes to an MOT carrying a full-on professional code reader to them, but I took an entire professional code reader with me and I had to turn off all the dashboard lights again in the car park, including the airbag light, which had been off for the last week or two, and that popped on the way over there. So we've got a clean dashboard when I parked it. Hopefully the clean dashboard will last for the hour it's needed to on the ramp, and then it can come on as much as it likes for the next 12 months. Structurally it's fine, the brakes are physically in great condition, the lights will work, the horn and washers and that kind of silly stuff works. And yeah, unless the handbrake isn't working or something dumb, which, you know, is possible, it's one of the things you can't see, or the emissions are off the chart for some daft reason, there's no real reason for that car to fail. So fingers crossed. I would touch wood, but there's literally nothing made of a natural substance in this car. There's no reason for that one not to be past number 3. Okay, I've taken the wheel back off to talk you through this because there was a lot when it came to this car. Not least of all, explaining that it wasn't me that painted the front edges of these calipers red. That was someone else in the past. I want no association with that whatsoever. I want to be very clear about that first of all. Now, I did a lot of searching online about how you go about changing the reluctor rings on this ABS system, and I couldn't really find anything very much indeed. What I could find was that you can buy the rings separately online. Went down to the local motor factors and they said you can't. You can only buy a complete kind of half shaft, which is quite a bit of money. I thought the thing to do here is to try and clean things up, because the old sensor had like a notch worn out of it, so that did indicate to me that maybe there's some rust build-up had got in the way of the sensor doing the reading. The Haynes book and the online world had no information about getting to the reluctor ring, so I started off doing the obvious sensible thing, which is the wrong thing of course, which was taking the brakes off, and that meant morning with the heat induction tool and Bulldog, getting this bolt out like on the Freelander, which is absolute blooming nightmare. Hopefully, having taken that in and out now, next time I come to change these discs, which actually look really good right now, that won't be a particular issue in the future. But of course, all of that was completely unnecessary, and I wasted a couple of hours on that, because you basically turn the wheel and access it from behind. And if you're going to change it, you change the entire stub half shaft. But what I did find though, the whole lot was very, very furred up indeed. So I spent some time with a wire brush, some brake and clutch cleaner, cloths, all kind of things, and got the thing actually looking really quite sparkly. So it looked like potentially there was no mechanical problem, because this is kind of come down to either a mechanical issue with the sensor and the ring, or an electrical issue with the wire from the sensor up to the ECU. So anyway, this meant lots more turning on, turning off, resetting, clearing the fault, and it would vanish for a moment and then come back again. Because it wasn't going away completely, I figured it must be electrical. So then I got into the whole game of testing for an intermittent fault, one of my most favourite things in the world, which meant finding two actual clothes pins from Mrs. Furious's sewing box that could go into the female end of the sensor connector, which is basically behind the arch liner sitting on top of the chassis rail, and that goes up into the engine. And I found two sets of conflicting information saying that either it goes to the ECU cable bunch, which is underneath the battery box, or it goes to the cables directly beneath the ABS. But anyway, whilst I was looking for the actual end, and they're both brown wires, I should say, both brown wires, which is really unhelpful. So you can't just look at a cable bunch out and say, oh, it must be that one, because they're all brown. So you needed pin numbers, and finding the correct pin number was proving issue. All the jiggling and wiggling seemed to turn the light out. So at the moment, the light is out. I'll give it maybe 12 hours before it comes back on again. I'm not calling it fixed, but I am saying the light's out. And until it comes back on again, we can ignore it for another 12 months. That's where we are now, basically. It's been wiggled and jiggled into submission. It'd be like the airbag light on the driver's seat. Every year I go in, wiggle the loom, code it out, and I'm fine again. There's not really a proper fix for it, unfortunately, but it gets me through the MOT each year. Okay, now I head home in the Punto and wait with fingers crossed to see if I've had 3 for 3 MOT passes in 24 hours, which would be astonishing if I have. Expensive, mind you, because MOTs don't come free. But yeah, we're there, hopefully, fingers crossed. I keep waiting for that text from the garage. Garage work, your car has passed its MOT. I don't often get those, so yeah, it's quite nice to live in hope. I've come up to the barn in the Punto, you know, I've still got the Italian flag here. I'm tempted to take home either the MX-5 because honestly it's the most amazing thing in the world to drive, or the 200 because it's just such a lovely car. But the thing is, we've got thunderstorms forecast for the next day or so. That's a convertible with a non-watertight roof. That's a car with a door window which has more than once I've come out and found the door glass inside the door. So I'm going to take the Punto home again. Well, join me in the drive home. Well, exciting times. Obviously I'm back in the Punto, which is of course now MOT'd and road legal and all the rest of it. Even bothered to tax it, how's that for a novelty? And a moment ago the phone tinged, and that was the fact that the Mini has also passed its MOT. So 3 for 3 in 24 hours is actually, well, pretty good going. I mean, it's pretty much unheard of for me, quite frankly. And it is super exciting for a number of reasons. Obviously it means I get to drive the 200 VI because that's a great summertime car. I tend not to use those kind of cars that rust a lot during the winter time, just on dryish days when it's not been salty. But that's a car I want to be getting out and enjoying as much as possible. The Mini, obviously, I don't use it too much, but there's lots of Mini events I want to try and get to. Well, we want to go back to the Isle of Wight again. We really enjoyed our trip over there, and so we may well take the Mini back over there again. So we want that one's ready to use. But the biggie is, of course, this, the Punto. I haven't had this car all that long. It's only, well, less than a year that I've had it, and so it's my first MOT with the car. But 30 years old this year, 30 years of the Punto. It's also 30 years of the Alpha 145. Hence the fact we've got the Spirited Punto mugs in the merch store. And I want to try and hit a couple of shows. Certainly Rustival's a likely contender later in the year. Oh dear, that's unfortunate. I've broken down the one-way system. Yeah, get both of these cars out side by side. The two 30-year anniversary Italian cars would be a great thing to have side by side at a couple of shows. So although I want to get this thing into the body shop to get that work on the rear arch done, I don't really want to take this car off the road for too long across the summertime because I want to be using it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, despite the fact it was massively truncated, because I spent 2 whole days working on cars and videoing it for you, and then just through a stupid little mistake, I managed to throw all of that footage away. It was properly good footage. It was proper tinkering. It was out in the drive with heavy tools, the welder, the hammers, you name it. This is, in fact, this is the only one that didn't have any actual work. This has just got a quick wash to get the dust off it. Anyway, if you appreciate my efforts, then please do consider hitting like and indeed subscribe. It makes a massive difference to the algorithm in terms of recommending this channel to other people. And of course, if you're a fan of any of the cars, then do please check the merch store, because we've got mugs and stickers and things of most of them, as well as the new Furious Driving logo stickers and t-shirts. Got to make some money somehow, because YouTube sure ain't paying it these days. Anyway, thanks for watching, and join us again next time doing something, well, completely different, probably.